too much candy last Halloween. Hello everyone, Alger the SideQuest Gamer here, and every 10th review I always take a look at one of my favorite games of all time. Well, for this review I'm going to change the rules a bit. I'm going to take a look at one of the worst games of all time, because one of the best games of all time I was going to do for my 70th review is kind of a really large game, and I at least want 20 hours to beat it, so I'll save that review for my 75th review. Tune in this December. Anyways, I have a question for you viewers. What is the worst game of all time you've ever played? Bubsy 3D? Elf Bowling? Catfight? Action 52? Well, have you ever heard of a game called Awesome Possum? Because it's definitely the worst game I've ever played. Why? Well, let me give you a few reasons. Well, actually, let me give you a lot of reasons.
Awesome Possum kicks Dr. Machino's butt.
I'm awesome!
No, you're not. Awesome Possum is one of the lesser known bad games. On YouTube, I've heard Cygnus Destroyer briefly mention it, and YouTuber The Retro Replay has done a review of it, calling it on par with Bubsy 3D. So this game doesn't have a lot of attention like Bubsy has, but that doesn't matter because this game was sold in store shelves, and it doesn't meet the standards of a good side-scrolling platformer, so I'm going to rip it a new one. This game was developed by Tengen, which is a subsidiary of Atari, who've had a pretty sketchy history on the NES previously, like bypassing the NES lockout chip and then selling games unlicensed by Nintendo to the Nintendo Entertainment System. They're especially famous for the Tetris controversy, where they were forced to recall thousands of unsold Tetris cartridges, and now the Tengen version of Tetris for the NES is one of the most sought-out collector's items. And keep in mind, the Tengen version is way different than the one we know today. The Tetris we know is only $10 on eBay. The Tengen version, however, is like around $100 if you can get a good deal. Now you may be like, okay, thanks for this history lesson, SideQuest Gamer, but what's the point? Hold on, let me get to it. The point is that Tengen had a history of obtaining profit from video game consoles through some legally ambiguous means, so I wouldn't call them a developer and publisher who cares about the quality of the product, but rather a corrupt corporation who just wants to make money any way they can. While they don't have a history of making universally hated games, they're not exactly revered like Capcom for their high-quality games. If anything, they're just known for porting arcade games to the NES, whether it be licensed or unlicensed. Not only did they release arcade ports without a proper license, they also released Sega games on the Nintendo Entertainment System, like Shinobi for example. How did they get away with that? And this game really shows the dark side of the company. Awesome Possum is evidently a Sonic ripoff. He runs kind of fast, is marketed as cool and edgy. I mean, look at the title. This game has to remind you that this possum is awesome. You don't get to decide, no, he's awesome. The game tells you he's awesome, even if you don't agree. And the worst offense of copyright infringement is where Awesome Possum's arch nemesis is, get this, Dr. Machino. Gee, who does that remind you of? I'm not even kidding. Dr. Machino even has his own army of robots taking down this rainforest, so he's basically like Dr. Robotnik in an episode of Captain Planet, where all the villains don't really have a clear motive as to why they're doing the evil deeds they're doing. At least Dr. Robotnik in the Sonic universe had a motive, albeit a selfish motive, but a good motive nonetheless. Anyways, this game was released on store shelves in 1993. You could say it's preaching the save the environment messages. I wouldn't mind that if it wasn't executed so poorly. I would say this game is more of a platformer than an edutainment game though. When you start the first level, you realize that the enemies are all over the place. In order to defeat them, you have to jump on them, like Sonic. But the controls really suck. When you jump, they feel loose and heavy, requiring you to steer the possum to land in the correct spot within a few milliseconds. And because of that, more often than not, I accidentally landed in the enemy's path, therefore taking damage. And no, it's not because I suck at video games. This game has problems. I do like that they added a health bar where you can take up to 5 hits before dying, although there were times enemies would take away a lot more HP than others. Not only that, but in addition to enemies, there are carelessly placed spikes and these hidden traps you wouldn't know existed without level memorization. But the thing is, all the levels look the same. All the level sections feel the same. These levels are so forgettable, confusing, and unforgiving that they might as well have the designs randomly generated. After you beat a level, you take in an edutainment quiz about the environment. Make of it what you will. I honestly didn't mind this aspect, but as someone who's taken a year of environmental science in high school, it would be like being asked what 1 plus 1 is, or what a squared plus b squared is equal to. C squared. However, I understand this game was not for my age group, so the quiz may actually be the only praise I can give to this game. It's a nice opportunity to earn some points, I guess. At the end of each world, you fight one of Machino's bosses, and the control problems are most inconvenient here. And it gets worse from here, as the second world is pretty much unplayable, as they've screwed up the underwater physics so bad. I mean worse than Bubsy 3D's underwater levels. That's pretty much this game in a nutshell. It's unplayable, it's that bad. This is the true definition of unplayable, where you cannot play it because it's so poorly programmed. I don't even like the look of this game. Awesome Possum's sprite design is fine enough, but when jumping on an enemy and spinning, like Sonic the Hedgehog, you notice he's missing way too many frames of animation to even be considered acceptable, and the backgrounds are very ugly to look at. Rainforests are supposed to be beautiful and luscious, but this is disgusting to look at. And so is the foreground. That game Booger Man looks a lot cleaner than all the brown and green aesthetics this game is going for. Why do I want to save this rainforest again? Dr. Machino can cut down this rainforest for all I care. This game was supposed to be a 16-bit game, yet there are 8-bit games on the NES and the Sega Master System that look a lot better than this. And that's embarrassing from a technical and aesthetic standpoint. The music is repetitive and forgettable, but the sound direction was interesting as they had digitized voices, which was not common back in 1993. However, it does come off as experimental, and Awesome Possum speaks way too much in this game.
I'm awesome! Amazing! What speed! What a ball! Knockout! So cool! Take that, you techno freak!
He's too nasally, and while I'd rather listen to him than Lanny Minnelli's rendition of Bubsy, it's still really annoying. So if I had to rate this game, I would give this game the dishonorary 1 out of 100. This game isn't even worth collecting for an ironic form of entertainment. It's by far the worst platformer ever conceived, and I don't think it can get any worse from here. Worst game ever? Well, I haven't touched a lot of the internet's worst games of all time, but it's definitely the worst game I've ever played. It's just unplayable, and in addition to being an unplayable mess, it also has the crime of being a blatant Sonic ripoff. So, if you ever see this piece of roadkill in like a used game store, don't buy it. Life is way too short to spend on this piece of garbage. Anyways, thank you so much for watching, and remember to stay awesome.
I'm awesome!
Except you, Awesome Possum. You are not awesome, nor will you ever be awesome.